My name is Joan Holliday. I'm so happy to be here. I'm here with Pastor Lileth Ball, who is pastor of Bethel AME Church, and we're here to hear the story of Theresa Bass. We think of her, and we know she is, a community leader of Kennett Square. I've been lucky enough to know Theresa since probably 1985, and so we've had a nice long relationships, and we work together on the street. I'm going to be asking her some questions, and she's going to tell us the story. So Theresa grew up in North Carolina, or she was born there, but she moved here as a young child in the 60s. And I'm going to ask her, what was the street like? This is historic East Linden Street. What was it like when you first moved here?
It was fine when I first moved here. It was a lot of kids here. Running around and stuff, everybody was friendly. But most of the time, when we first moved here, we weren't allowed out the yard at all. But after a while, we got a little older, we were allowed to come out and really talk and play with the other kids. But I knew the kids anyway. We all went to the same school, Greenwood School. So anyway, then after that, they built a swimming pool in the back, so we have something to do. I think it was Kay Jackson that built this pool. One of the members of our church, Miss Boyce, she was involved with that. So it was a whole lot of kids coming in, and swimming, but it couldn't be so many at one time in there. So we had the lifeguards down there, and also basically, that's one of the things we did. We also had a little basketball court back there, and we played basketball and soccer, just different things,
It was definitely a place of feeling at home. In 1998, another nurse friend and I decided that there were a lot of kids on the street that didn't have a lot to do after school. So we started an after-school program, tutoring program called Study Buddies. And was so happy because there were a lot of kids on the street. But there were also some other things happening on the street. And I came and saw Theresa one day a couple of years after we had gotten started. And she's in her yard, and why don't you tell me what you said?
Well, she came to talk to me about, the neighborhood and what was going on here. And I was like, I'm going to leave anyway. I'm getting ready to buy me a new home. I'm leaving. And she said, okay, I understand that. But what are you going to do? I said, I'm leaving. She said,
Why did you want to leave?
Because it was getting real bad. It started getting bad, people coming from different places, different cities, and
Selling drugs.
yeah, selling drugs. And people that we didn't even know, just standing around. It was getting kind of scary a little bit. I worked on second shift for a little while, and I came home one night, and I got home about 11:30, something like that, and it was maybe about 10 guys standing on the sidewalk, and I had to actually walk around them so I could get into my house. But the one guy I knew, he was sitting on the porch. There was nobody lived in the house at the time. So I asked him, I don't want to say no name, I asked him, I said, well, so you live in the house now? He started laughing. He said, oh, Therese, what are you talking about? I said, do you live there? He just started laughing, and he said, what you up to? I said, I just got done working, I'm going in the house. But you need to go back up to your house with your friends. So anyway, I said, you know what? This is crazy. Then a couple weeks later, I parked up here by the church, and it was a car, real nice car up here. It had New York tags, I think it was on it. It was real nice, but you couldn't see them because they had those dark windows. You couldn't see anybody's face, but I could hear them talking. But the accent, I knew they weren't from Kennett. I said, wow. So I hurried up and walked down to the house, and I said, you know what? I'm done, because I knew what it was about. I knew what it was about. So anyhow, so I just, at that time I just gave up, and then that's when I ran into Joan.
So there was a shift. There
Yeah.
was a shift from happy Kennett to a dark Kennett.
Yeah. It was
What
happening.
did you do to contribute to a change in this situation?
Well, like I said, I was going to leave, but then Joan came knocking on the door and wanted to talk to me about it. I said, Joan, I'm not worrying about it anymore. I'm going to leave because I already found a place where I can get money to buy my own house, brand new house. So she said, well, that's the easy way. So what are you going to do about it? I said, I'm leaving. She said, well, that's the easy way, Theresa. Then you told me to pray about it. She told me to pray about it. And then, we'll talk again. So she came back 2 weeks later and she sat and talked to me. I said, Jane, you know what? You're probably right? So then that's when me and Joan started, having our own little meetings and talking about, what I seen that I didn't like on the street, what could I do to fix it, and like I said, even now, there's still a lot of kids running around here. So I was concerned about the kids too.
Pastor Lileth, her faith was really strong through this whole process. And I know that you've been a real support to her in that too. Is there anything you want to reflect on?
Yes.
Yes.
When we talk, when she was struggling with her mother's death and we were having counseling sessions, she said, there were times when I didn't even know what to do or how to do or what was going to happen. But the altar you see behind us is what I came to and prayed, and God worked it out.
And I really felt that that's what she used through this whole process. I was lucky enough to know of an organization called Alliance for Better Housing, and they just happened to have an outreach person that was willing to work in neighborhoods. So I introduced Theresa, and
Yes.
we had our first meeting here in the basement of this church. And what did you do? How did you get people to come to this first meeting from this street?
Well, I just went to door with Jones Flyers first. And I, was handing them out and stuff. And actually, I just put them in the mailbox. The first time, I don't think I even handed them out. But Joan, here she comes. Said, Theresa, did you really hand them out? I said, really? I didn't have time. So anyway, she talked to me a little bit. And anyhow, I went from door to door from one end to the other, from State Street to front and all the way down, the alleyway, the house was down in the alleyway. I went to everybody's house and knocked on the door, asked them if they could talk to me. And they said, sure. So I told them what was going on, I asked them the same questions that Joan asked me, how do you guys feel right now about how the neighborhood's going? And most of the people who owned their houses said they didn't like it. They were feeling the same way I did. So I said, well, I saw myself Alliance for Better Housing, and a couple other people said they could help us out. And then that's when we found out about Elm Street, which they had Elm Street in Westchester and Kennett. So anyhow, we started having our meetings, and I just asked them to come, and they came out. Even the older people, everybody came out. One time it must have been like 60 or 70 people sitting in this upstairs, because they wanted to know what can we do, because a lot of these people owned their houses and they were getting older. They wouldn't like me where they would be able to just go ahead and buy another house. They didn't want to leave their home. This is where they've been all their life.
I saw the potential in Theresa for being a leader, and when she started to talk to these people in the homes, I told her, I can't do this. You're the one that can do this, because you live here and you care. And they felt your caring. I know they did. So what happened with this Elm Street project was money that came from the state for the second street from Main Street. So there's the main State Street, and then there's East Linden. And so you went, one of the objects Alliance said you needed to do is to talk to the Borough Council to see if they would work with you. So tell us about that.
Well, at that time, Marge Wolf was she was the
Town manager.
the manager of everything over there. So I talked to her, I met her, she's very nice. And I sit down, I talked to her and asked her, if, they would help us, they would help us, and with Alliance for Better Housing. She said, sure, Theresa, we want the same thing that you do, because if the neighborhood is bad, and it makes the town look bad too, because it not only float here, it goes out there on the main streets too, So anyway, me and Marge started having meetings, and so anyhow we came to the church, Joan and I knocked on the doors, and the church was full of people because they were tired of it too. And it was good meetings, you know. Sometimes there's always negativity in there, you know. And they was like, well, how do you know, Theresa? You're too young to know anything. I said, well, I lived here for a long time.
So you stayed with your
Yeah.
intention?
Yeah.
We kept saying, we have a vision, we're not gonna lose
Yeah.
that vision. But you took this whole group of people, I think
Yeah.
there must have been 30 of them, to a borough council meeting?
Yeah,
You
yes.
showed up. Tell them what they said about your proposal.
Well, we went to ask if they could help us, get this Elm Street money, and they basically said yes. They said yes, they could.
They started to work, and they
So
told me
control it.
they never had a group come with such a positive spirit and a plan to work together.
Yes.
So this has been going, this was in do you remember what year? 2004, I think, is when we started with this. And this went on for about 10 years. 10 years. The journey has been wonderful. The biggest thing that I think has happened is people are proud of their streets. And during the discovery, you found out the history of the street.
Oh,
So-
yes.
So why don't you tell about the tours that you ended up having as part of the process?
Yeah, I was saying that I lived in Kennett practically all my life, and I didn't know anything about the Underground Railroad, and nothing, especially since we live here, I didn't know anything about this. I was really excited about learning about this. So, me and my friend Kendra, we went to Westchester to the library, and we found all this information about the Underground Railroad and what it had to do with East Linden Street, and it told us about everything, It talked about the Bethlehem Church, for one, because really this is the first church that was built here on Linden Street. The other church was built out there in Tough Kenneman, and they came in 1900s, 19-something, 1954, something like that, I guess. Anyway, but this church was built in 17-something is on the front of the building. So anyway, we talked about, we had people from New Garden Church here too, and everybody was very interested, what was going on. So, and people kept coming to the meetings.
This is when you got the study buddies involved.
Yeah.
And you got them all dressed up
Yeah.
in the costumes of the people that live on this street.
Yep.
And wonderful, blocked off the street, and we had the community come and hear the history.
Yeah, they actually came from, Genesis was one of our big supporters, Genesis Healthcare, right up here in town. And we would start up there, and, we had different people. We had like the mayor and couples.
Congress people.
Yeah, conference people there, and everybody was able to speak. Then we did the tour here, and we had the little kids from the study buddy. We had them dress up and had them sit on this church step and this church, and and like I said, in our books we have the name of the people, and they were dressed up like those people, right? And anyway, they had a good time, and it was really nice that everybody loved it. We did that for a while. We did it for a while. We'll probably do it again.
Yeah, I think you need to.
Yeah.
Nick?
I'm listening to the conversation between Joan and Theresa, and what I am hearing is a reaching back into the past and understand how it shapes the present, and reaching forward into the future and bringing the future alongside them into the present to ensure there is a continuum of the peace on
Thank you.
Kennett Square.
Beautifully said. There was a pride that started to come out for the kids because they started to say, oh my gosh, there was the first African-American doctor on this street. Maybe I can be a doctor. There were people that started businesses on the street. There was someone that housed slaves, Underground Railroad. They do believe that some of the runaway slaves actually were housed here before they were sent north. So there was a sense of caring for people. That sense of caring came out in the kids. I think it was a wonderful, exactly what you're saying. They brought the spirit of the past to the present.
Yeah.
It's
Because it just seemed kind of weird that I lived in Canada all my life and didn't know about this
But now you're telling the community
Yeah.
about it. Now,
Yeah.
Mary Dugan was a wonderful woman
Yes.
who now has deceased, but she actually did a little book about this street and did a research on all the different homes in the history. So we have that too, don't we? Yeah.
Yep. So I do
Okay, now tell me about National Night Out, because that's another thing. I know a lot of communities today are struggling with relationships with the police department. And that was different on the street. Tell me what you did.
Well, we started to have, the board, we agreed to have a national night out. And we were the first one to have one on this side of.
In southern Chester County.
Yeah. So anyway, Eddie, no, McCarthy was first. He was the police officer first when he was helping us, but I don't think, was he there when we did National Night Out? Well, anyway, Eddie DeZino, he was the chief at the time. And we honored him and his officers. And also, there was a lot of people there, and also the Kennett Township Police came for a couple of years. Remember, then, they have their own now. Anyway, the Township Police, so it was like 20, 30 police officers there. They were all dressed up, and they did like you're doing with us now, they did with the kids, they asked them questions and the kids were answering back, the kids were so happy about it, and it was a real nice day, it was a lot of people here. A lot of people
The whole
here.
community started to come to see what was happening. They made baseball cards with the police officer's face on it.
Yeah.
And gave the stats, and they traded these, and they got to know the police officers, which
Yeah.
was really sweet.
Yeah.
But you got very involved in study buddies. I started to back out when I started to see that this whole organization was carrying it. And this study buddies is still going on today. And Theresa and her mother were so active in,
The lunch program.
yeah, absolutely. Providing lunches, providing foods, getting out tutors, it's been wonderful, yeah. So there's so much to tell about the story, but I think the key thing that I wanted to bring out is that here's Theresa, who's ready to leave. And she prayed about it and understood she had a deeper call, and she responded to that. And through that call, so much has happened. And today, if you drive down the street, people feel safe here. They run, the runners are running down the street. If you
Yeah.
look, all the homes have a certain, they're taken care of. We had wonderful assistance in helping people know how to do yard work, so many different things.
Yeah, we also had a cleanup day once a year. We did that for about 5 or 6 years. Closed the block down, and then the borough would put dumpsters on the alleyway, and everybody would get like old couches and chairs, wherever they didn't want, and throw it in the dumpster. It would sit there all day long, and they would have somebody over there watching, making sure that everything was okay. But it was fun because we had set up the hot dog grill here and hamburgers and stuff. And Reverend Washington, he was at the table, handing out paperwork to the people. Then he started helping on the grill. He was so funny.
He was a pastor here. It was
Yeah.
wonderful. They also
Yeah.
have block parties. COVID has kind of shut things down
Yeah.
for a while, but block parties every year.
Yep.
Block off the street.
Yep.
Invite the community.
Community, when the block party, everybody came from everywhere. They from Oxford, West Grove, Westchester. I mean, it was a lot of people here, and we had the moon bounce here. The kids have things to do, and
It's true.
yeah.
Ultimately,
Clean
they
up and-
received $1 million, $500,000 from the state and $500,000 from Wachovia to work on all of these projects. So you can tell they were trusted, and they deserve to be trusted because they brought results. Theresa has a personal life and 3 beautiful children and 3 grandchildren. Yeah,
3 girls.
yes.
And a boy.
No, three grandkids.
Oh,
I
three
got,
girls,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they got 3, I got 3 grandkids and 3 kids, and 1 son and 2 daughters.
The daughters are very accomplished in their education. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Victoria, she was on the phone when I left. They do the line thing. She's like, I don't know exactly what it is, executive or something, that whole company where she's everywhere. I can know that's stressful, but she don't back down, it's Toya.
No, LaToya's been very
She's
instrumental in helping with the street too.
Yeah.
She's now, who's board president right now? Because they now have a nonprofit neighborhood association that they continue to work with the street. She's on the board. She's on the board.
She's on the board.
Yeah.
I'm still the president.
You're still the president, okay. I
So
think you're going to be there
So
for
this is
a
not just the end of the story, but rather
continuation.
a new way, because with COVID,
Yeah.
we have to find ways to evolve
Yeah.
into what we do. So we are saying, Sister Theresa, that there will be a new way of being, and the street will continue. You will be moving to this new generation of kids that you have cherished,
Yep.
and teach them how to continue with what you've built in Kennett.
Yeah.
Very nicely said, thank you.